Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's office hours. This is the top 12 new features in Apex 20.1 that everyone should know. I hope all of you are healthy and safe. And for our friends in Europe, I hope you're staying cool. We are joined by the Apex Dream Team today, Salim, Bo, Mark, Chaitanya, Monica. Today is going to be all demo all the time. The only PowerPoints you're going to see are the ones that I have right now. We have a lot to cover. Let's get rolling. Just to advertise next month's office hours, on September 17th is another combined office hours with the spatial product development team. Location matters, map visualization for Apex developers. I hope you join us then. For those who attended, there was the Oracle Developer Live sessions last week and this week. And there were some excellent sessions from Connor McDonald, from Chris Saxon and others. Josh Spiegel talked about the new autonomous JSON database service, and the replays are available at this link. And speaking of announcements, Oracle did announce last week the introduction of the autonomous JSON database built on the same autonomous database infrastructure. If you have friends who are using MongoDB, have them take a look at autonomous JSON database. It does include Apex, and for those who are interested, this is the model that we intend to follow for the forthcoming Apex service. That is a lightweight service coming, built on the same autonomous database infrastructure. And I talked about this last office hours, but just to plug this again, Scott Spindolini is hiring Apex experts around the globe. I encourage you to scan the QR code if you can refer someone, or if you're interested, I ask you to consider it. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Salim for our first demo. Please go ahead, Salim.
Thank you, Joel. Feature number one that I would love to cover today is the faceted search enhancements. And I'm going to talk about 5 enhancements that we added in the latest 20.1 release. The first enhancement is the ability to have the cascading list of values. So a facet can have a cascading list of values, allowing data dependency on another parent facet. Let's look at this example. We have one facet that represents the region, and we have another one for the country. Typically, you would like to limit the countries that belong to a certain region. So in our case, if I select Americas, I would love to see USA and Canada. If I select Europe, then I would love to see only the European countries. And the way to do it is going to the country facet in our case, and look at the list of values. Now we have one option for cascading list of values, and we would like to tell the engine that country facet depends on the region facets. And the column that will link between the country and the region is actually the region column. So if you look at the list of values for the countries at the back end, you will see that we have added one column called region. And that's the one that we will use to link to the parent facet. The second enhancement that I would love to talk about for the facet search is the conditional facets. So now you can hide non-wanted facets based on the value of another facet. Let's look at the example here again, and we see that we have different departments. And we know that for the sales department, we have commissions. And I don't want to show the commission facet unless I select the sales. So if I select sales department, then the commission facet will appear. How we do this is simply by introducing a new attribute for our facet called depending on. So I would like to make the commission facet depending on the department one, and when the value of department equal to sales, then I will show it. The third enhancement is we have now a compact count display. So instead of showing 1,000, maybe you would like to show, for example, 1K. And instead of showing 1 million and 6 zeros, maybe you would like to show 1M, and so on. So how do you set it up is by simply going to the attributes of the facets and change the compact numbers threshold. In my case, I put it 10,000. So anything above the 10,000, it will start showing the compact count. So if you look here, I have 11K. But if you look at the numbers here, because they are below 10,000, so the full number is shown, 6,909. Let's change this to 1,000. Run it. And instead of having the full digits, we have the compact display count. The fourth enhancements I would like to talk about is now we automatically include a separate row for total row count, which is this one, which is basically a region. So if you open it, it's a static content region that has a div element with an ID, and we use that div element to populate the total and to put the receipt region as well. The last enhancement is the ability now to sort by top counts of the facets. For example, if you look at the countries, and this is typical in e-commerce, you would like to see the top count in descending order. So the higher count will be on the top and the lower will be on the bottom. You can change that if you want to by disabling the sort by top counts. If you do that, then the sorting will be depending on the list of values. So if your list of values shows Canada, for example, at the top, then it will show at the top. That's feature number one. Feature number two that I would love to talk about today is the PDF native printing. And this is available only today for the interactive grid. We are working to include it for other regions like the interactive report and the classic report in the future. And the way to enable it is simply by going to the attributes of your interactive grid and making sure that you enable the PDF format in the download section. The moment you do it, there is a new section under attributes called printing. This will allow you to change some settings for the page, like the size, the orientation. You can have a custom height and width for the PDF. You can even have a border or change the color for the border. Or it allows you as well to change the font settings for the page header, column headings, the columns, and the page footer. Let's add a page footer, for example. And let's play around with the page header, make it a little bit bigger, change the font, give it a different color, and save that. Now, if I go to Actions, Download, and I hit on PDF, you will be able to override the page size and the page orientations, but not the other attributes. Let's download the PDF file and view it. Notice that the page header now has a different font, different size with the color that I picked. I have also a page footer. Let's play a little bit with the highlighting and let's see if that will be preserved in the PDF. So for example, I did a control break based on the project, and I would like to have some aggregates. And let's aggregate the cost for the different tasks. And I would love as well to have a highlight. So I will say I would like to have too expensive. Let's pick a background that's a bit fancy, red, and then I'll make the font white, and then this will depend on the cost, where it's greater than, let's say, 300. So I will consider all the tasks with a cost greater than 300 as expensive. So now I have some set of highlighting. I did the project control break, and I have the aggregate. Let's download now our PDF again, and let's see if those settings have been retained or preserved for us. Now, if you look at it, we have all the settings that we've done retained in our PDF. Currently, the PDF does not support Middle Eastern or Eastern languages. So languages like Arabic or Hebrew, Chinese, or even Japanese is not yet supported. In the future, we are working to support that. That's it from my side, and it's over to Bo for the next couple of features. Thank you.
Thanks, Salim. All right. I'm going to talk to you about two new features. Feature number 3 is friendly URLs. Apex applications now support 2 types of URL syntaxes. So friendly URL and the legacy F*P syntax. The legacy syntax made it challenging for some of the search engines to index and recognize a public web app as the same link because the parameters were always different. And so applications created using Apex 20.1 will now automatically use the SEO-friendly URL syntax. And existing applications can easily be changed to the new syntax. And the friendly URL syntax will create a URL structure that identifies the address of the application, the Apex application, the page, and it uses standard web parameter syntax. So here is the legacy F*P syntax, and you can disable or enable these friendly URLs in the application properties. So I'm going to go to App Builder, Edit Application Properties, and right here, you can toggle that on. And let me run this. So there is the new friendly URL. It reflects the workspace path. So in this case, bo_apex_test. The /r is a router shortcut, so that's a constant value, can't be changed. The next is the application alias, and the next one is the page alias. You can also change the workspace path prefix. It does default to your workspace name, and you can edit that in the workspace administration. So I'll show you that one. So in the app, go to Manage Service and set workspace preferences. And right here, you can change that to whatever you'd like. You can also change the page alias name on each page, and you can do that by going to the app, the page name that you, or the page alias that you want to change. And then right here under identification, you can make that change there. All right, feature number 4 is mega menus. So here is a new mega menu demo that I created for you. The universal theme now supports this mega menu navigation, and it allows all of the application navigation as a collapsible floating panel, and it's going to display all navigation items at once. So you can even display the icon, maybe a short description, and in this case, you can even change the colors, and I changed them to 3 different ones so you guys could see that. You can enable mega menu navigation when you're building a new application in the Create Application Wizard, or you can change it for existing applications in shared components. So to enable in a new one, go to Create. I'm just going to do New Application. And then right here in this arrow, there's an option to select the mega menu. If you want to enable mega menus in an existing application, go to the App, Shared Components, User Interface Attributes, and then right here under Navigation Menu, you'll see a drop down for the top navigation menu, mega menu. And here you can make it full width or custom width or automatic. You can do multiple columns. You can do a custom or a stacked, whatever you'd like to see. If you want to add the icon like I had, or the short description or color changes, you want to go to the app, Shared Components, Navigation Menu, go to Desktop Navigation Menu, and I'm just going to pick the first page, which is Home. Here's the icon that displays, and then if you scroll down just a bit, this is the description that showed it in my mega menu, and these are the colors that you can change And I'm going to put a link in the chat so you guys can have a link to the universal theme and all of the color and status modifiers that will show you how to use all of these different descriptions. And that's it for me. Next up is Chaitanya.
Thanks, Bo.
Bo, oh, there you go. I think you had to stop sharing.
Sure. All right, so I'm going to talk to you two new features. Today, feature number 5, which is interactive grid enhancements, and feature number 6 is remote application deployment. The first thing is built-in support for URL filtering, which is an interactive grid enhancement. So built-in support for URL filtering or the ability to define links that allows you to link to an interactive grid and filter a report, information in a report, based on the information that you pass in to that link. So these URL filtering examples we have covered in a couple of sample applications, like we do have sample charts, sample interactive grids, and sample reporting. Do cover some examples. In my demo today, I'm going to show you an example from the sample charts application. So I'm just clicking this. And then I'm in my sample charts application. So you see here new in 20.1. So click this guy. And then you see two examples, bar chart and a pie chart. So I'm taking an example from the bar chart, clicking this. And then I will navigate to series name column mapping. So once you come here, you see this particular chart depicts jobs by department, and you see departments 10, 20, and 30 on the x-axis. The idea here is if I click on any of the elements in this particular chart, I should be navigated to an interactive grid, and that should have a filter defined on that particular chosen item. For example, if I'm clicking here, so I click here, I'm navigated or redirected to an interactive grid, and I see here the filter defined on department number 10. I also see there is a filter on the EMP details, which is a saved report. This particular filter definition is being specified or being passed on as a specification via URL. And then let us take a look at how this has been specified in the chart. So I'm navigating to bar here. And then what I do is I just click quick edit, just go here. This takes me to the page designer. And then I see jobs by department series. So let me just filter for link. You see here page 29. So the page in question here is this particular page, page 29, which has an interactive grid region in it. So if you see here, I have set items, and this particular thing would show you the value that I'm passing on, the department number value that I would like to pass on from my chart query, and have that set to the IG interactive grid column department number. So the syntax IG underscore prefix would obviously let me know that this particular department number is a column in the interactive grid. This must be pretty similar for those of you who have worked who have been working with interactive reports. And then under clear reset, for action, we have clear regions and reset regions. Clear regions is the same as CR, and reset regions is the same as RR, for example. So the other thing that we have to notice here is under advanced request, you see IG within square brackets EMP. And then this EMP refers to the region static ID, which is defined, that I have already defined in my interactive grid region. So this is the syntax. IG within square brackets is the region static ID, and this EMP details is the save report that I already have in my interactive grid. So this is how you would actually specify the URL filtering. Now, for more examples, I would suggest you to go to documentation. And in the documentation, we have the app builder users guide. So I would recommend you to go to chapter 10. And in chapter 10, we have chapter 10. It's chapter 10. Okay, chapter, sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay, chapter 10.1, actually have chapter 1, 10.1, oh, sorry, chapter 10.6, you do have a link to chapter 10.6.8 linking to interactive grid report. So this is something which you might want to take a look at for the syntax and the examples that are covered. While I'm in the documentation, I would also like to discuss another enhancements for interactive grids. We have documented a new PLSQL API, Apex_IG, which is pretty similar to Apex_IR. And it has been very well documented in API reference guide. So I'm here in API reference guide. So you can just navigate to chapter 19. So this discusses the syntax as well as the accompanying examples for this particular API. So this is basically useful for those of you who work programmatically with interactive grids in your applications. All right, so the next thing that I would like to talk to you is another feature, which is remote application deployment. So let me just go back. My app builder, and then here app builder. Well, what is this remote application deployment feature is all about, or we also call it as one-click remote application deployment feature. Basically, this makes it easy for you to deploy your application along with your underlying database objects straight into your deployment instance. So what you would do right now is you would export your application definition. You also export your underlying database objects into files, and then you would deploy these things into the deployment instance. You would basically access the target system, and then you would import these files. So without doing all these things straight from your source system, you can deploy your application along with underlying database objects into your target instance. While the source of the target instance can be the source of the target workspace can be in the same instance, or it can be from your local instance or the local workspace to your remote instance. Now, in my example, I'm using two instances over here. Both these instances are free tier autonomous instances. The first one that I do have is a dev instance, which I do have in my Hyderabad data center. And then the second one is my staged instance, which I have in the Mumbai data center. So I would like to show you how I can move quickly, I can deploy quickly the application that I do have in my development instance into my staged instance. This particular feature basically uses the Oracle REST data service as REST enable SQL reference. So I do have an application already, so I'm just going to run that quickly. Before that, I don't need to do any kind of prerequisites. I'm using autonomous database, and autonomous database comes pre-configured with Oracle Wallet as well as with network access control base. So at least for the source instance or for the source system, I'm not going to do anything, but on the deployment instance, all I'm going to simply do is REST enable the deployment schema. So I go to SQL Workshop. I'm right now in my deployment instance and go to RESTful services. And then I just need to register schema with Oracle REST data services. Let's accept the defaults and save schema attributes. That's it. I'm going to come back here later. So right now I'm in my development instance. So I'm just going to run this application to make sure everything looks good before I deploy it to my deployment instance. This particular example is a simple application that I have built on the demo EMP table. So it's got a couple of pages. So all good. I would like to move this one. I would like to deploy this one to my deployment instance. So before doing so, I would like to have an installation script. So just click create. I already have the installation script ready. So just giving it a name and then hit next. And then I click choose file. And then I just pick up the particular file and then click create script. All good. So I'm in my application homepage right now. So I need to go to export import and hit remote deployment. That's it. I need to have a deployment server created. I don't have anything yet, so I just want to go ahead and then create this one. Just give it a name, stage. Now I need to go to my deployment instance and expand modules here and just get this particular full URL, copy this guy, and then go back to my deployment, my dev instance. This is a one-time setting. Make sure you have the odds context root as well as the schema URL prefix in your endpoint URL. Then hit next. Just creating empty credentials. I don't want to save them. I'm using basic authentication and then say create. Just create a reference to my REST enable SQL and then selecting it right now. And now I'm going to input my client and client secret. Set and send next. So it's getting deployed now. It's taking me to the deploy application page. So here, I would like to export supporting object definitions and also install them on import automatically. And accepting all of the default SASEs, I would like to choose override existing application. Although I don't have any application with the same ID at the moment in deployment instance, I'm still doing this so just to preserve the application ID for future overrides. So hit deploy. My application should be deployed in deployment instance. So with just one click, I just deployed it to my deployment instance. So I go to App Builder. And then now I see my application deployed here, and then let's run this application. So no more exporting the files and nothing of the sort. I just simply clicked and then exported, deployed it, and then I see it here. So just click randomly. And I'd just like to quickly show you one more thing. So go to my application. I'd like to show you overwriting of the application. I would like to create a chart page, chart, and then give it a name, department, whatever, breadcrumb, and then hit next. Want to create a new navigation menu entry. And then I would like to choose my table, which is demo EMP. That's it. For label column is department number, value application is sum, and for value column, just selecting salary. And let's say create. Okay, so now my page is ready. I would like to deploy this one as well. So just go to export import now, demo deployment. There are no upgrade objects anyway, so just choose this one directly, selecting stage. Code, and we pass the client secret and then hit next. Same thing goes again, and then now here export and install automatically. And then I would like to override the existing application, so I will have the same application overwritten there in my deployment instance. All right, it's done. So now let me just run this application. I would like to see the change if the salary by department chart is available or not. So my application is running right now. And then I simply go here and click salary by department. And that's it. I'm able to see the change that has been deployed to my deployment instance. That's it from me for the two features. Thank you. Over to Monica now.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to demonstrate the feature number 7, export your application as a zip file. So what is this? In previous releases, you can find the file format feature, but now, instead of that, you are going to find the export as a zip feature. If this feature is on, you are going to export the application as a single, as a content, If this feature is on, you are going to export the application as a zip file containing separate files for each page, shared component, user interfaces, and more. Okay, so if this feature is off, the export is a single SQL file containing the entire application. So what is the purpose of exporting the application as a zip file? Well, this way you can control the version and changes you have made in your application. Besides, you don't need to deploy the entire application. You can deploy it on a specific page or component. So what I'm going to do is to show you my repository. I'm using Tortoise SVN, but you can use any other version control system. Previously, I have here my repository and I have imported my application. So you can see the application with some folders and files, okay? So we have here the deployment, pages, share components, and user interfaces. If we go to the pages folder, we can see all the pages contained in the application. All right, so what I want to do is to make some changes in my sample database application, and then I'm going to export my application to the repository, and we can see the differences between both versions, okay? So I'm going to do quickly some changes in the navigation menu. All right, so I'm going to update the name of this entry. For example, I'm going to add the name, and I'm going to add another update in the entry. For example, this one. And let's do another one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to export this application. And you can see here the feature, export as a zip. Okay, so I'm going to set on, and you can set your preferences as well. I'm going to export the application. And here we have the export, okay? So what I want to do is to export or to extract my application. Oh, sorry. To extract files in my repository. Okay. And if we go to the repository, again, we can see the changes. So before you can see the green icon, which means that all the changes have been committed, but now you can see this red icon, which means that we have made some changes in the previous release or the version, all right? So let's see the differences. So I'm going to go to the Share Components folder, Navigation, List, and we can see the file with changes. If we go to the differences, we can see here the differences, okay? So this is my previous version, and this is the actual version that I have. Then what you can do is to go to your repository, and you can decide if you want to commit or not your changes. So also you can use the command line, so you are ready to go with your versions of your application. All right, so let's move on to the feature number 8, automatic backups. Okay, so let me go to the app builder, and Apex automatically is going to back up only modified applications on a daily basis. So please take in mind that runtime only applications are not going to be backed up. Okay, so if you are in the app builder, navigate to the workspace utilities, and here you can find the manage backups. Okay, so you can find here the list of applications that you have in your workspace. Okay, and you can see the details such as last size, last backup, last updated, if the application exists or not, and the number of backups. Let's see this application, and you can see the details for this backup. Okay, the initial backup, when you did this backup, or who created, the size, the status, which can be locked or unlocked, and some actions. Okay, so let's see these actions. Okay, you have restore application. What you can do with this? You can restore application using the same ID, which means that it's going to overwrite your application. AutoSign is going to generate a new ID application, and you are not going to lose for example, in this case, the application number 100, and change the application. You can define the ID you want to use. Okay, so I'm going to restore my application using this backup, and I'm going to use AutoSign new application ID. and I hit restore application, and we can see this developed version of the applications. Okay, so here we have the application and the restore application. Okay, so let's go back to the workspace utilities and manage backups, and to see the other actions that you have. You can download this backup, you can view the details, okay, and you can manage the log. Okay, what is this log? The way to use, let me show you. Okay, so what I want to do is go to the oops. One moment, please. Manage backups, and this one is what I want to see. Okay, I have some backups that are locked and some others are unlocked. The objective is that if you want to prevent that a particular backup is not going to be deleted during the daily maintenance, you can lock it, okay? And if it's okay to delete a particular backup, so you can leave it as unlocked. At any moment, you can change that. You can unlock it, or you can lock a backup. All right. So take in mind that Apex is going to retain only the 25 most recent backups of the application. All right. So basically, this is it, and you can create also a new backup or remove it all the backups. Okay, so as far as at the moment we can create a new backup because I have made changes in the application, but the backup has been created in like 67 seconds ago. Okay, so if you want to see the changes, the details, you can go to the view details, and there you can see what are the changes made in this backup. Okay, if you want to see all the details, all the backup details, you can go to the resources, all backup details, and there you can see the list of backup details made in this application. Okay, so now I'm going to pass to Joel.
Okay, thanks, Monica. Let me share my screen. And the next three features I'm going to talk about are specific to Apex on Autonomous Database. And feature number 9 I'm going to focus on is data loading from object storage. So for those who don't know, we always talk about the always free Autonomous Database, but there's really an always free Oracle Cloud tier, and that includes object storage. And so what I'm going to show right here is object storage that I'm not paying Oracle any money for. And with object storage, I'm able to upload files basically to a share, right? To a bucket. And you'll see that I have in my object storage in Oracle Cloud, I have a bucket called File Share, and I have a couple files here. This task spreadsheet and a file, a Parquet file of sales data. So now, back in Application Express, if I go to SQL Workshop, and then I'm waiting for it to catch up here, and Utilities and Data Workshop, you'll notice that on premises, you'll have load data and unload data, but notice that I also have now load from cloud, from a cloud object store. So I'll click on load from a cloud object store, and you can choose an existing object store reference, which I have set up here, but you can also create a new object store reference. And you provide some information here and a credential. Very often you would want to use OCI native, and you would need to provide your OCI signing credentials. I would have no idea how to do this if I didn't have this little bit of documentation So I'm going to provide this in the chat, okay? Just so you know. So like I said, fortunately I have an existing object store reference, so I can see my file share. And here are the files that you saw listed in Object Store. And instead of doing the Excel spreadsheet, I'm going to do Parquet. And this supports Avro and Parquet, which succinctly stated are big data file formats. So I'm going to choose Parquet. And what this will actually do is create a database object, an external table to this Parquet file. And Parquet is a self-descriptive file. The data signature is part of this file format. So you can see likewise, we have parsed this file. I can specify my commit interval. I'll call this sales data. And notice I could do this to an existing table or a new table. This external table object, I can also say, do I want it preserved after the fact, or do I want to drop it after the data load? I'm just going to say drop it when we're done. And I'm going to issue load. And so this file that I have uploaded separately, notice now I don't necessarily have to upload it into Apex and then process it. This is a file that I could move via other tools to object storage, especially for large files. I don't want to have to go through the database in Apex to stage a data file. So it's churning away here. And again, this is in my free database. And I think we get up to around 916,000 rows. So just like that, I haven't moved any files around other than those that exist on my object store. And also notice from here, I can also create an application on this table that I just loaded. So the other important point about loading into cloud, and the good Dr. Azarski also validated this, is not only can I load from cloud on the Oracle Object Store, but I can also load files from Amazon S3. So I can have files staged on Amazon S3, their object storage, and load those directly into my database on Oracle Cloud, which I think is pretty sweet. Okay. Feature number 10 is the ability to control in Apex the service level at which your queries run in your Apex application. And I'm going to share this here. For those who don't know, when you use the Oracle Autonomous Database, there are 3 different service levels that you could connect as: high, medium, and low. And just for your education, I'm also going to put this link in the chat that describes the service levels. If you have a free autonomous database, this really doesn't matter to you because a free autonomous database is limited to 1 OCPU. But let's say you had an autonomous database and you could auto scale, get up to maybe 24 OCPUs. People have built Apex applications and they said, my app is slow. I have this very complex data warehouse query, and I tried in SQL Developer, it's fast, and I do it in Apex and it's slow. And this is completely a function of the service level that you're connecting as in to your autonomous database. So ORDS, which front ends Apex, always connects on effectively the low service. So it's going to be capped no matter what you do. It's always going to be capped at 1 OCPU to use for the query. But what we've added in Apex 20.1 is the ability for you to specify on a region level the service level at which the query will run. And to demonstrate this, it's not going to be a real demo because I'm using my free autonomous database service here, so it's still always going to be 1 OCPU. But if I drill down into my tasks report here, this is simply an interactive report on the tasks table. And if I look at the region, I'll see that this is currently a table or view. And if I change this to a SQL query, I now have the ability to specify my optimizer hint. and there are 3 built-in optimizer hints that you could specify here. You could say Apex ADB high, Apex ADB medium, or Apex ADB low. And this is where you would specify your service level, and it would only apply to this query when it's run in Apex. Do not embed this hint in your query as a traditional SQL hint. It's going to mean nothing. This is the only place that you can specify this in Apex. And again, if there are other queries on the page or other queries associated, let's say lists of values associated with your interactive reporter region, it may not necessarily apply. So it's only going to be for this particular region. So now you can build these very awesome visualizations or report queries against your data warehouse and make full use of what you've purchased for the autonomous database. One other thing that I should point out, though, and this is specified in the documentation here, is there are some constraints on the use of these service levels. So you don't want to go in and make everything high, because there are built-in constraints on autonomous database that will permit a maximum number of concurrent statements at that level. Okay. And lastly, I'll log out and log back in here. The last feature that I'm going to show, feature number 11, is the ability to control when Apex is upgraded on your autonomous database. So let me go back to my sign-in page here, and I'm just going to do administration services and log in here. So this is going to be a bit anticlimactic, but I'm going to show, and I'll provide a link in the chat here as well, is a link to this blog post where I discuss this in detail. And a number of customers have rightly stated that in a real production system on autonomous database, they want to control when Apex is upgraded on their production instance. They also want the ability to be able to test their Apex applications before Apex is upgraded, just to ensure that maybe they're not relying upon some deprecated feature or something breaks. And these customers were right in their insistence on this, because the way that patches are delivered and the way that Apex patches were deployed on autonomous database is you really had no control when Apex was going to be upgraded. You could say, gone are the days of it's going to be upgraded at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, because 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning in the Middle East is not 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning in the US, for example. And so we support these global regions. The patches get distributed and they are deployed, could be at any arbitrary time. So if you're a production customer and you're running an Apex application, you don't want the Apex upgrade to happen at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You want to control it. So now what we've added is a feature accessible in the instance administration in Apex for you to control when the upgrade happens. So right now you can see that there's really nothing here. The text is bad. So I'd like to change this to light so you can see this. Okay. This is something I have on my screen. Sorry about that. This isn't specific to Apex here. But you have the ability to control when Apex when Apex is upgraded on your autonomous database. The default here is no, which means as the patches roll out, go ahead and apply them to my autonomous database immediately. But what you can do is specify yes here. And then when patches are deployed, what you will see, not only will you get an email in advance saying Apex is going to be upgraded on your autonomous database very soon, but you'll see a little notice, and I have a screenshot here. And this is what customers would have seen when Apex 20.1 was made available on autonomous database, that there is an upgrade available. You had set these to deferred, and effectively you have, I think it's 45 days, either 30 or 45 days. Once the patch is made available on your autonomous database, if you elect to do nothing, then it will be upgraded automatically after that time. But what's great now is you have the ability to clone your autonomous database, let the upgrade proceed, and then once you believe everything is fine, then you can come back. And once you access the same dialog a second time, you can come back, and if there are pending Apex upgrades available, you can click the Upgrade Now button and the Apex upgrade will proceed. So you can do this at a time of your choosing. And again, if you're running this, and this applies to free as well. So if you go to the available updates, you can control when the Apex upgrades are deferred. And that is feature number 11. And I'll pass it to Mark Ziefs.
All right, thank you, Joel. All right, let's move this out of the way and share my screen 1 second. There you go. All right, my feature number 12 is the Redwood theme. Redwood is Oracle's new design language, and you'll see it here on the oracle.com homepage. It was introduced last year at Oracle Open World, and you'll see it now on many of Oracle's websites, marketing collateral, PowerPoint presentations, and many of Oracle's products. So this Apex 20.1, we switched to this Redwood look and feel, and you've seen this in all previous demos already. So this is what it looks like. It has a more earthy tone. We have lots of new icons, icons that scale better and that work better in light mode and dark mode. And it's very easy to toggle. You can just go here to your preferences and then change the dark mode. And in dark mode, everything is dark, and you see icons with different shadings and better contrast. You can go to Page Designer and also look at Page Designer in light mode and dark mode. And you have the ability to also make this automatic, like clicking on this little icon here, makes dark mode automatic based on your operating system preferences. So if you are running, if you're running Windows or Mac, you can toggle between light mode, dark mode, and automatic. So if I go to dark mode here, then everything, my browser as well as my content here in Apex switches to dark mode. So let's keep this on automatic and go back to Apex. So this is the Redwood UI in the builder, and that is available with Apex 20.1. And with Apex 20.2, we are also planning to extend and make this available to your own custom applications. So you'll be able to choose a theme style that has the Redwood look and feel as well. And this is how that might look like. All right, that is my feature number 12. I do have one more thing though, and that is session timeout alerts. And you already saw the little icon here, a little pop-up. Session timeout alerts is about notifying users that their sessions are about to time out or have timed out. And in the past, your sessions were already timing out. You just wouldn't really know it. You would click somewhere and then you would get a notification, and that was not very user-friendly and definitely not accessible. So with Apex 20.1, you can now go to your application attributes and then navigate to security, and then set up session lengths as well as maximum idle time in seconds. Let's set that to 20. And if you want to have warning, you can also set a timeout warning also in seconds. Let's go with 10 and 20. And then let's run this application again. We just sign out and sign in again. And let's wait. So within a few seconds, we should hopefully see my warning, followed by my warning. So my session will expire in about at 10:55 my time. I can choose to extend it and keep it running for longer. If I'm out for lunch, I can just choose to kind of extend for another hour, or I can just have it expire as what happened right here. All right, so this is session timeout alerts, and I have yet another thing. And for that, let me just fix up my application again so that I'm not timing out during my next demo. There you go. So really my last feature here is support for SODA. SODA is the Simple Oracle Document Access. It's a non-SQL, NoSQL style API. I'm going to put this into the chat here so you can read up on it. So SODA is a NoSQL style API allowing you to store and create collections of documents in your Oracle database using JSON. And with Apex 20.1, we're introducing support for this format in SQL Workshop. So you can navigate to your SQL Workshop, go to the object browser, and then in this list of object types, you'll find SODA collections. I want to briefly show you how you can load one of these and work with them. And I do have one prepared, which is a lengthy list of over 80,000 New York City inspections. I live in New York, and this is a list of inspections of restaurants and businesses and how these inspections went. Now, I do have a smaller version of this as well that only has 10 rows. So for making this a little bit faster, I'm just going to load this smaller sample. So I'm going to Object Browser, click here on add a new object. I'm going to add a soda collection, and I now can just drag and drop this soda collection in here. And I'm going to give it a name, demo collection, and importantly, along with this load, Apex also creating, well, the API is also creating a relational view for you. I need to change this to line feet and then hit load data. And now I should get this new soda collection loaded along with my 10 rows. All right, 10 rows loaded. And now I can actually build an application, or I can just go back to Object Browser and look at this. And there's my collection, there's my JSON data. And when I switch to views, I can look at this relational view, and in here, I actually see the data extracted out into columns, if you will, sector, zip code, city, number, street, and such. And looking at the data, you actually see the same data that came in from this JSON document. So then having this soda collection view, relational view, allows you to actually build applications on top of that data, right? You can go to your applications, you can go to create page, create a report, let's say interactive report. And then on this last step here, you can choose to point to this relational view. There it is, demo collection view. Now, I already pre-created this for you so that you have a little bit more of a meaningful demo. So let me run my application again. And my session expired. So let's go back in. And over here in my menu, I can go to city inspections. And I created a faceted search report on this lengthy list of 88,000 rows. And now I can scroll through all this data, or I can use faceted search to actually drill down into things like, for example, I'm only interested in Brooklyn. This is where I live. And I would like to look up, let's say, laundry stores. And there you go. Now I'm down to 795. And now let's look for laundries that have no violations issued. There you go. There's a list of laundromats that I could consider going to. So this is soda collections support in Object Browser, and using the relational view on those collections, you can actually build Apex applications on top of them. And that is all I have. Back to you, Joel.
Well, I think this was fantastic. Thanks, Mark. I'm out of breath. And thanks, everyone, not only our great Apex Dream Team who was here today, but also the great attendees and the wealth of questions which were asked. I hope this was useful for everyone. This obviously was recorded, and it will be made available probably in a day or so, just apex@oracle.com/office hours. And again, as another plug, on September 17th, we'll have another office hours with the famous Dr. Karsten Zarski and the spatial product development team on map visualization for Apex developers. Thanks again for joining us. I hope everyone stays healthy and safe. We'll see you next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.